Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah, the 8th chapter. As the Lord continues to reveal to Jeremiah, right, the things that he is, the things that is going to befall Israel, right? You can see as you read through here, that it gets pretty bad. And I think that as we continue to go through the chapter, eventually you're going to start to see the shift in Jeremiah's outlook and perspective on things, right? Because here, as we're reading from the first few chapters until now, right, he's a little nervous at first, right? He tries to, push back against the Lord and say, no, he's too young, right? And then when he sees the vision of the destruction coming to his people, he mourns, right? He laments. But eventually, right, we start to see a change in that sentiment as he begins to understand more and more why it is the Lord is going to bring that judgment. Okay. So this is Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 1. At that time, saith the Lord Yahweh. Now remember, when we left off in the 7th chapter, getting to the last few verses, it was describing that there would be so much death, right, that it would be basically like overflowing, right, in the region of Tophet, right, and the Lord was basically saying that he was going to cause that destruction to bring an end to the mirth and the folly and all those things in the land. So, continuing in verse 8, at that time, saith the Lord Yahweh, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves. And the day that would be doing this at this time was the Babylonians. Reason being, generally, right, this does happen. It's known as grave robbery, except in a mass scale here, because haven't seen the temple, haven't seen the people of the Lord. They after the Babylonian armies, after breaking through the defenses of Israel, getting into the city, burning down the buildings, killing people, taking people captive, they would also go into the tombs or the sepulchers, the areas where as it says, the kings, the princes, and you notice it's not mentioning common folk, because the prophets, the priests, the princes, these were people that were of higher status, and therefore there would be a chance that they could find valuables, right? Like whether it's like a gold chains or jewels or whatever that was either put on the person as they were buried, or just buried, put in their tomb or whatnot. So they in the perspective of these armies, they're trying to basically get whatever riches or whatever they can find in there. But the Lord is using them to do that too. As we go into verse 2, it says here, and they shall spread them before the sun and the moon and all the host of heaven, whom they have loved, and whom they have served, and whom they have and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. So you had Israelites, remember, going into the way of idolatry, worshiping the sun, the moon, the stars, and so on. So the Lord is like saying this is going to be like poetic justice, to where your buried ones are going to be dug up and spread out, right, on the face of the earth, their bones on the face of the earth, as these armies are searching, for riches. But it's poetic justice, because it's likened on to now those same gods that are, the same sun and moon and stars that you like to worship can now behold, your state, your carcass right here or your bones right out there in the open. As it says, they shall not be gathered nor be buried. They shall be for dung upon the face of the earth. And you may not, if you don't understand the culture or the significance behind it, it may not seem like a big deal, but it actually was. It was a very dishonorable thing to not be buried, or to have like your burying place disrupted, right, or your bones dug up, and so on. Now, today they do the same thing. Okay, it's called excavation, where you have these archaeologists. So that you type that in here, excavation. Well, maybe I used the wrong term, but in any case, or maybe I didn't. Let's see. It says here, excavation is the process of removing earth, rock, or other material to create a hole or cavity, and it is used in various industries, including construction and archaeology, which is the study of the past, or the archaic study. In construction, excavation prepares sites for foundations, buildings, and other structures. In archaeology, it is a systematic and scientific process of carefully digging and documenting a site to uncover and analyze artifacts and remains. And those remains can include, the bones or tombs and whatnot of people that are buried. Hence, you have museums. So today, this is the process. They do this right in modern day sense in the study of archaeology to prove or find out if indeed at this place is this they said Isaiah lived here, or this was the city of David. Let's see if we can find anything related to that. Okay, but back then this is a form of judgment that the Lord was bringing upon them. Now, interestingly enough, right, when you deal, because this came to my mind, when you go in the past from our time, of course, in the future from Jeremiah's time, during the time of the Hasmonean dynasty, you had a Hasmonean ruler known by the name John Hyrcanus. And he also ended up, I pulled it up here, basically going into the tomb of David, right, according to Josephus, to get some funds as he needed it. So it says here, this is on John Hyrcanus, under Seleucid control, 133 to 128 BC. So this is after the time of the Maccabees, right? This is right before, a little before the Roman Empire makes their conquest into the East and conquer Judea, where you have the setting of the New Testament. So this is intertestamental period, right? After the Old Testament and before the New Testament, right in between. So at this point, you've had the Maccabean revolt. The brothers of the Maccabees, they're already dead. You've had the situation go on with, the Greeks beseeching Israel to be on their side versus like the Romans and X, Y, and Z. And now you had a point where the Seleucid Empire it's there, but it's also kind of waning. Okay. So it says here, following the Seleucid siege, Judea faced tough economic times, which were magnified by taxes to the Seleucids enforced by Antiochus. Furthermore, Hyrcanus was forced to accompany Antiochus on his eastern campaign in 130 BCE. Hyrcanus probably functioned as the military commander of a Jewish company in the campaign. It is reported that Antiochus this is not Antiochus Epiphanes, this is Antiochus the 7th. So way after Epiphanes, I believe Epiphanes was the 4th. Because Antiochus was a throne name. It wasn't like a birth name. I mean, it could be, but it wasn't. It's like saying Pharaoh, right? Pharaoh the second, Pharaoh this, Pharaoh that. Out of consideration for the religion of his Jewish allies, at one point ordered a 2 days halt of the entire army to allow them to avoid breaking the Sabbath and the festival of Shavuot. And you can look into that and what that is. But for now, let's keep going. This enforced absence probably caused a loss of support for the inexperienced Hyrcanus among the Judean population. Judeans in the countryside were especially disillusioned when Hyrcanus, after Antiochus's army plundered their land, with Hyrcanus after Antiochus plundered their land, John Hyrcanus' expulsion of the non-military population of Jerusalem during the siege had probably caused resentment, and his looting of the tomb of David violated his obligations as high priest, which would have offended the religious leadership. So he went up in there because he needed some funds, which is kind of wild. Therefore, at an early point in his 31-year reign, Hyrcanus had lost support from Judeans in various cultural sectors. The Jerusalemites, the rural Judeans, and the religious leadership probably doubted the future of Judea under Hyrcanus. However, in 128 BCE, Antiochus VII was killed in battle against Parthia, which is on the east. What followed was an era of conquest led by Hyrcanus that marked the high point of Judea as the most significant power in the Levant. So under the reign of John Hyrcanus, Judea, Israel's dominion expanded to conquer Idumea and Samaria and all of that, which also feeds into a part of the reason why the Samaritans didn't mess with the Jews. I believe Hyrcanus destroyed one of their temples or something along those lines. You can read more into that. But just wanted to basically highlight this part here, right? This is something that Hyrcanus ended up doing. Now, why did he do that? Because he knew that, in these tombs, you would have, the reason the term grave robbery exists is because of the fact that you have in some tombs a lot of riches. So anyway, let's come back to Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 3. And death shall be chosen rather than life by all the residue of them that remain of this evil family. This evil family the Lord is referring to Israel as this evil family because of the wickedness that they've done to warrant this judgment against them. So he's saying here that for those that remain, their conditions would be so bad, they would rather, die than to live and experience those things. As it says, that remain of this evil family, which remain in all the places whither I have driven them, saith the Lord of hosts. So wherever they're going to be taken captive, they're going to hate it there, right? Which was the initial sentiment when Jake suffered this atrocity. Verse 4, moreover, thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, shall they fall and not arise? Shall he turn away and not return? This is, to make it clearer, I'll read it in the NLT. When people fall down, don't they get up again? When they discover they're on the wrong road, don't they turn back? It's rhetorical because the answer is yes, they do. Why then is this people of Jerusalem slidden back by a perpetual backsliding? So why is it that when it comes to Jake, they're going the wrong way, they're backsliding, and they're continuing to do it perpetually? Have they not realized that they're going the wrong way and that they should turn back? They hold fast deceit. When you hold fast, the word fast means to firmly. They hold on to deceit. They refuse to return. So they're going the wrong way. They're being told they're going the wrong way, but they're refusing to turn back. I hearkened and heard, but they spake not aright. So the Lord is saying, I listened in, saw the way they live, the things they talk about, where their mind is, but it's not right. It's not right with me. No man repented him of his wickedness, saying, what have I done? So nobody stopped and considered and say, damn, like, what are we really doing? Like, we're out here bowing down to idols. We have a God. We have history. We delivered us out of the hand of Egypt and all of our enemies. What business do we have serving the sun and the moon and the stars? So nobody stopped to consider that. Everyone turned to his course as the horse rusheth into the battle. So they just continued on in the way of wickedness, just like a horse rushing right into battle. Verse 7, yea, the stork in the heaven knoweth her appointed times, and the turtle and the crane and the swallow, these are animals, observe the time of their coming, but my people know not the judgment of the Lord. Let's read this in another translation, which makes it a bit clearer. Even the stork that flies across the sky knows the time of her migration, as do the turtle dove and the swallow and the crane. They all return at the proper time each year, but not my people. They do not know the Lord's laws. See, so even the animals know when to turn back, when to go from one place to another. But when it comes to Israel, they're full steam ahead in wickedness. Nothing occurs to them to say, hey, all right, it's time to actually, turn back to the Lord because we're doing too much. And that's why they wax worse and worse. How do ye say we are wise, and the law of the Lord Yahweh is with us? Lo, certainly in vain made he it. The pen of the scribes is in vain. So how do you then turn around and say to yourselves and one another that remember Moses said that the law would be our wisdom in the sight of the nations, right? So you turn around and tout that you have this wisdom because you have the laws of the Lord with you. But isn't it in vain that it was even written down? Because you've perverted the meaning of it. So it doesn't matter if you have the law, but you're not keeping it. That's what it means by certainly in vain made he it. The pen of the scribes is in vain, because the scribes would write down right the laws and the ordinances and things that needed to be recorded down, and they would be in charge of preserving it. So as, say, the parchment or papyrus was getting old, they would now rewrite it on new, fresh, parchment to preserve it. The wise men are ashamed. They are dismayed and taken. Lo, they have rejected the word of the Lord Yahweh. What wisdom is in them? So those that proclaim themselves to be wise will be found out, and they will be ashamed because a lot of them were preaching that whole peace, as the Lord is going to continue to say here. Right. And as it says, what wisdom is in them? They're make-believe wise men. They don't actually follow the ways of the Lord. Verse 10, therefore will I give their wives unto others, the others here being their conquerors, right? Because they would take them captives, they would take them as slaves, and their fields to them that shall inherit them. Once again, those that would conquer Jerusalem. Now, after the Neo-Babylonian Empire, led by Nebuchadnezzar, had, conducted the destructive siege in around 586, they left a few in the land to be farmers and like tillers of the ground in order to still pay tribute, right, to Babylon. So that's where you get Habakkuk, right? When you read in the book of what is it, Bel and the Dragon, it mentions that in Juri there was Habakkuk, right, the prophet, who the angel came and took him to go and bring food to Daniel. Now I mentioned that Habakkuk he had prepared food and he was taking it to the reapers, right, in the fields. And then the angel said, no, you're not. This is for Daniel. So that was after the siege. That was after the destruction. But that's like going to show you that Habakkuk was one of those that was left in the land, right, to do this. So when it says here, their fields to them that shall inherit them, the ownership and benefit of the fields, the crops, and all that went really to the Babylonians as tribute. For everyone, from the least even unto the greatest, is given to covetousness, which is greed. From the prophet even unto the priest, everyone dealeth falsely. So they were prophets for hire. Same with the priests, abusing their authority, so long as they can make money. What's one example? One example in modern day sense is this guy, Al-Azhar. He touted himself to be this priest, the Levitical priesthood, and look at all the things that he was doing. Okay. Verse 11, for they have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying peace, peace, when there is no peace. And this was also mentioned in the previous chapter, because they were pushing this lulling sweet message of, this judgment and these evils that that Jeremiah or these prophets are talking about is not going to come upon us, right? We're going to be good. Remember, they were saying, oh, we got the temple here. There's no way the Lord is going to destroy this place. So when it says they have healed the hurt, meaning they've soothed this grave wound, which that incurable wound was wickedness of Israel, but they soothed it with those words of peace, saying that you're going to be good, you're going to be good. But as it says, it healed it slightly, because that wasn't the solution. But it was just like a lie that was, to put them in that state of like ignorance is bliss. When in actuality, impending judgment was what was coming to them. Verse 12, were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? So did they have any shame? Were they even the slightest bit embarrassed to be doing this? Nay, they were not ashamed at all. Neither could they blush to be like, once again, embarrassed or disgraced to be doing this. Therefore shall they fall among them that fall, right? Those that are slain, you're going to join those that are slain, because you're going to be slain. In the time of their visitation, they shall be cast down, saith the Lord Yahweh. So when he brings that judgment, they're going to suffer it. They're not gonna get back up, so to speak. Verse 13, I will surely consume them, saith the Lord. There shall be no grapes on the vine, nor figs on the fig tree, and the leaf shall fade, and the things that I have given them shall pass away from them. So the Lord would not only punish them with, the sword, but also with famine, right? With droughts, and especially in the time like a siege. Not having these, having a drought in the siege is very, very detrimental, especially if you don't have like storehouses that can, sufficiently last you. So the Lord said he's going to take all this away, right? Your crops, your figs, all of that. Why do we sit still? Assemble yourselves and let us enter into the defense cities, and let us be silent there. NLT, when the people will say, why should we wait here to die? Come. Then the people will say, come, let us go to the fortified towns and die there. So at least we'll have a better chance, in like a place like Jerusalem, which has walls that can defend us. For the Lord Yahweh, our God, has decreed our destruction and has given us a cup of poison to drink because we sinned against the Lord. So as the judgment comes upon them, this is like from the perspective of Israel, right? This is the things that they would be thinking and saying. Assemble yourselves, gather, and let us enter into the defense cities, right? Let's go into the defense cities, Jerusalem, Lachish, so on, and let us be silent there. For the Lord Yahweh, our God, has put us in silence and given us water of Gal to drink, because we have sinned against the Lord. So the Lord is bringing judgment upon us. And that silence is like a state of mourning or devastation. We look for peace, but no good came, and for a time of health, and behold trouble. Well, did we not read here that those false prophets were slightly healing them, saying peace, peace, when there was none? So they looked for peace, but they got evil, right? For a time of health, and behold trouble. The snorting of his horses was heard from Dan. This is talking about the horses of the armies of the Babylonians. Now, when you look up here, map of Israel from Dan to, let's say, Beersheba. Let's take a look at this. Now, remember that Dan ended up, moving up, right? So you have Dan over here. And I think there was also the territory of Dan over here. But when it says here, when they use the term like from Dan, it's basically saying from the top all the way down to the bottom of the land, the whole land, as it says. You could hear the armies coming. The whole land trembled at the sound of the neighing of his strong ones, i.e. his horses. And snorting, I looked up here, snorting horse, and it tells you, right, a snorting horse as a versalite signal, indicating either contentment and relaxation, such as when grazing, or alarm and curiosity, when encountering potential danger or a new object. So them invading the land, going for war, that would be an example as to why it mentions the horses snorting, and neighing. For they are come and and have devoured the land and all that is in it, the city and those that dwell therein. And you can read about that in secular history. Just look up the siege of Jerusalem, 586 BC. For behold, I will send serpents and cockatrices among you, which will not be charmed. Here the Lord is likening their armies onto serpents and cockatrices that you can't tame. You can't negotiate with them. You can't talk your way out of this. There's no diplomacy that's going to work, because that would be like charming a serpent, so it doesn't bite you. But here it says, and they shall bite you, saith the Lord Yahweh. So they're going to consume you. You're going to suffer this judgment. When I would comfort myself against sorrow, my heart is faint in me. Behold the voice of the cry of the daughter of my people, because of them that dwell in a far country. Remember, once again, like I mentioned before, Jeremiah is seeing and hearing these things. He's genuinely, lamenting about it, because he sees that, like, this is destruction that he hasn't seen before. And we're not talking about, a city or, a block, or they were talking about the Jerusalem being destroyed, right? Fire, like, death, captivity. So it stressed him out. As it says, the cry of the daughter of my people, because of them that dwell in a far country, is not the Lord Yahweh in Zion? Is not her king in her? Which is referring to the Lord. Why have they provoked me to anger with their graven images and with strange vanities? So he's saying, like, this is what the Lord is saying, right? Isn't the Lord with you, right? Isn't your king, once again, being the Lord within you? So if that's the case, and you have your God already, why are you then provoking him by worshiping these idols? The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. And this is now, what Israel would say as they would suffer. Remember, the Lord said that he would take away the things he had given them, right? The figs, the vineyard, the vines, all of those, right? The grapes. For the hurt of the daughter of my people am I hurt. I am black. Astonishment hath taken hold on me. And when you go into that word black, it can be used for mourning. All right, Qadar, which is dark, as it says, to mourn, right? Be dark, to darken, to cause to mourn. So as Jeremiah is saying here, seeing this is putting him in a mournful state, right? I am black, astonishment hath taken hold of me, or hold on me. Is there no balm in Gilead? And this is it's a rhetorical question, but it's to emphasize what we're about to read in the last verse here, that the problem wasn't a lack of physicians, right? The problem was the sickness wasn't that of physical sickness that you could use balm to heal. It was that of spiritual wickedness that Israel was committing, that they didn't want to turn from. So as he says, is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then is not the health of the daughter of my people recovered? And the reason is because their sickness, as Isaiah even said, they're sick from the sole of the foot even to the head. The whole head is sick, but it's not with physical wounds per se, but with spiritual corruption. That's why, even though Gilead was known for having, physicians and medicine and so on, that's not the solution that they needed. So with that brings us to the end of the book of Jeremiah, the 8th chapter. Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Racha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.